Welcome to shul.com. Today, before we begin our shiur, I'm giving you guys a gift. This is the SEGULA brought down by Harav Musafi. What was his SEGULA? The SEGULA was a great one. Is that when you do mitzvot, don't throw out the leftovers. They're called she'arei mitzvah. Why? Because she'arei mitzvah me'akavin tapuranut. If someone wants to have security, extra protection for him, his wife, his kids, don't throw out the leftover things in mitzvot. So what do we have here today? We have here my leftover SCHACH. I took them. These were palm trees, and so I'm going to give everyone a piece. And then what you do is you cut it into small pieces and you use them as pitilot. And so you take it from one mitzvah of SCHACH, you do it for the pitilot of Chanukah. You do it and that's the last holiday we had. The 8 days went to the 8 days. So I'm going to give each one of you guys a piece, and you cut them up. And here you go. You can cut a piece and break them up into small pieces. Here you go. No, it is, because you cut a little piece and you make him a patil on it. Just one. Here, pass one. Yeah, and cut pieces for him, Shai and him. That's it. And it will burn. The way you do it is you use it as a patil in the floater and the oil, and now you use it, split it up so Shai can take a piece. For all of them, yes. And this is she'arei mitzvah. I keep them up. I keep them, and I do the segula year to year on different things. All right, guys, you ready to start? Yeah, you can cut it for him. All right, let's go. Hadlakat ner Chanukah be'erev Shabbat u'motzei Shabbat. Hamavajah. Guys, we're learning the halachot of Chanukah. Every year we come in, we don't want to forget. There's a lot of stuff. So now, what happens on Friday? Every single Chanukah, you're always going to have a Friday. Why do you always have a Friday? Chanukah is 8 days. No, but it's always 8 days. So if it was 7 days, now why 8? There's a whole inyan, because if you look at the menorah is only 7 lights. So we gave 9 opinions of the Beit Yosef last week on a separate video on YouTube. You can check it out. 9 opinions. What was the mitzvah? One of them, what was one of the mitzvot, is that the Yevanim wanted to take out which mitzvah? Shabbat. They wanted to take out Brit Milah and HaChodesh. Why the Chodesh? Because they didn't want the women to go dip in the mikveh. So what did they do? They tell them, don't count anymore the months. That was one of the reasons they had. The Brit Milah, because they didn't want circumcision. What were they trying to do? The Yevanim were not out to kill the Jewish people. They were only out for the spiritual. They said, listen, if we take off the Kedusha, and they knew, if you have the men go with the Greek women, if you have the women go with the Greek men, after 1-2 generations, finished. It's gone. Look at the Reform and Conservative movement. They thought they had a movement. It took 1 or 2 generations, and even today, I know because I have a family member, Lo Alenu, who's conservative. And I don't mean like conservative, not observant. I have family that's not observant. They're like anti. That's almost like the Karaim. They have like their own shita. But I joke around with them. I said, how many people in your shul are actually Jewish today? And they don't like that I say this, but I know that probably most of them, even the rabbis, maybe not even Jewish, according to the Orthodox law. And so when they make changes, so the Yevanim were only about change. That's why we mentioned on the holiday of Hanukkah, there's no mitzvah to eat not sufganiyot and not anything. It is brought down in Harambam to eat sufganiyot because you have something with tugan b'shemen, something with oil, because the miracle was oil. But the real message of the holiday of Hanukkah is learning more Torah, and what's the main one? Hoda'ah. The main thing of Hanukkah, what's the message? Every holiday has something. It's a Pirsum Hanes, but what? Why Pirsum Hanes? That God did a favor for us, because if you notice, there's a dreidel and there's a grager. The dreidel, we have the svivon, we have it on Hanukkah. Then you have the grager, or we call it the Ashan, you have it on Purim. So what's the difference between the svivon and the Ashan? And you see, if you notice, I changed it from dreidel to grager, because those are words in Yiddish. So we're going to go down to okay, very good. Okay, very good. Very nice, very good thing. One is make okay, very good. So one's le'ela le'tata. What does that mean? Le'ela means le'ela up, and tata. That in the time of Hanukkah, we really didn't do anything to deserve the miracle. Hashem did it in the zechut of other things, not because of us. It all came from the Shamayim. Obviously, there was prayers and there was misirut nefesh from the Hashmonaim. And what's the difference, by the way, between Hashmonaim and Maccabim? What's the difference? Hashmonaim are those that came from the family of Matityahu. They were called the Hashmonaim. They're Kohanim. Maccabim is anyone that decided to fight. Mika mocha ba'adim Hashem. Anyone who wanted to fight, you're called a Maccabim. Whoever was part of the family, they were called Hashmonaim. So what's the difference between a Sevivon and a Rashan? That a Sevivon, you hold it from the top in order to spin it. And like you mentioned, it's quiet. Because why? It was quiet. Everything came from the Borei Olam. It wasn't us that did it. All the big miracle. How do you know that? It says Giburim b'yad hadashim, Rabbim b'yad ma'atim. That's all the miracle. But when it came to the holiday Purim, we hold it from the bottom. They were fasting, 3 days praying, they were yelling, what does Mordechai do? Ze'aka gedola umara. And so you hold it from the bottom, you make the noise at Ashan. Why? Because how did the action happen on Purim? We did it ourselves. So we do it, sometimes these small customs like dreidel, things like that, and they look like they're seemingly nothing, but there's a lot of depth in it. There's a lot of it. And so what's the main thing of this holiday? Only thanking God. And how do I do it when I go into the holiday? I thank God for my personal things. That's what I do. Obviously, I'm thanking for Klal Yisrael. I thank Hashem that we have Baruch Hashem, Eretz Yisrael. I think that we have the Kotel HaMaravi. People forget that in 1967, you were not able to go to the Kotel HaMaravi. Rav Musafi brings down a great story from his father, Acham Salman Musafi. Acham Salman Musafi wanted to go when he was still living in Bavel. When he was living in Bavel, he wanted to make Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael with a group of Tamidei Chachamim. One of the reasons is he wanted to do all the kavanot and the tefillot. There's special kavanot, they only do them in Eretz Yisrael. So he wanted to do it. What happened? He went to Eretz Yisrael and he wants to go to the Kotel HaMaravi. So he spoke with one Jordanian, and the Jordanians were the ones who had control at the time. The Jordanian tells him, if you want to go pray by the Kotel, you need to go get a ishur, a permission slip from the church. So the Jordanian sent him to the church. Why to the church? Because he knew that Jewish people cannot go in the church. And so what were they in essence doing? They were pushing off Hacham Salman Musafi from going to pray by the Kotel. And he was seemingly very upset about this. It bothered him a lot that even himself, you couldn't go pray by the Kotel. Not enough we have Eretz Yisrael. We're even galut in our own country. He was very upset about this. He went on top. You know where Eshat Torah is? You had that yeshiva with have the glass top, and you see he went to an area like that overlooking the Kotel.
So I proposed.
And he proposed there. All right, so it has a makom kedusha. It's a makom kedusha. He goes over there, and in a very heartfelt prayer, he went there with like a minyan of people, and he said, "I need to do special kavanot because we're going to now change the reality." He sat there for probably half an hour, 30 minutes, and he's crying and he's tearing up. He did special tefillot, and after like 35 minutes, and everyone felt the energy, they felt the feeling over there, he said, it was mikubal, we can leave. 3 weeks later, this was in May, 3 weeks later, June 1967, they went in, and within a miracle time, they took it all over. And a lot of times we think we're fighting with our battles with just weapons, and that's not true. When Yaakov Avinu said, "Bikashti b'harbi," I took over the city with my sword and with my arrow. You look at the Targum Onkelos. Targum Onkelos, who we learned the other week, was the Gilgul of Eliphaz. And what does Targum tell us? Bikashti b'harbi bitzloti uva'atohi, with our prayers. And that's the reality. Of course, we need to have weapons and a gun and the right artillery and an army, but our real fighting comes with our hachamim. And it's very well known amongst the Sfaradim that many times in Israel, when they had major battles that they had to go out, the generals would go to the yeshivot and ask the Rashi yeshivot to pray extra. They would go to the Mekubalim, they went to Hacham Kaduri, they went to Chama Vajah. All the time to go to Chama Vajah, ask him, listen, I'm thinking of doing this, what do you think of that? And you know what? The fact that they even humbled themselves to the Talmidei Chachamim, Hashem says, you made that union, I'll take care of the rest. Don't worry, let me handle my part. Just you do your share. And that's why everyone has a chelik. To some guy, he's not going to sit down and learn all day. No problem. But you must give the power of the learning and of the authority to the chachamim. And all the time, I always say this, if the leaders in Israel would just start and say, B'Shem Hashem na'aseh v'nasliyach, everything they say is going to be more matzliyach automatically. God said, you just put me there, I'll take care of it. And we know that from Hanukkah. Hanukkah, we didn't have much zechuyot. And Hashem saved us from that. And so that's why in Hanukkah, it's about hoda'ah, thanking Hashem for everything in your life. Anything you want to thank Him for, you give. Now is your time, and that's why it's one of the few holidays you have Hallel every single day with the beracha. You don't even do that on Purim. You don't do it. You don't do it on Pesach. You don't do it on Shavuot. You do it on Sukkot every day. But on Hanukkah is the only other time that we didn't have a lot of zechuyot to save us, and Hashem had rahamim to save us on it and to allow us to keep the Beit HaMikdash. So that's the first reason. Now that's why also on Purim, because Haman was trying to kill us and actually go after our physical body, we celebrate with a seudah, with the meal. But on now Chanukah, there's no mitzvah for a seudah. So a person doesn't have to eat.
Candles represent neshama.
So the candle's neshama. Why? But it's spirituality. It's not one of a meal, but on Purim you actually have a mitzvah. You have to eat a meal with bread, and even with meat and with wine. Why? Because they were going after
Even
the physical.
When we eat, the souvenirs are connected to the oil. That the oil is neshama.
The oil, and we connected
Even
it.
what you eat is
Yeah, and by the way, it's brought down by Harambam. It's not a new cut. Don't think that it was made up by the bakeries. Some people think it is. It's not. It was actually something brought down. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol nהיה baro. But the sad thing that we saw, Ed, the sad thing we saw earlier today when we were doing the story in the morning, is that we saw from the time of Achashverosh and Kodesh, when they allowed everyone to go back to Israel, they had the law of return. That they told everyone, you can come back to the land, come back to Israel, and seemingly the people didn't come. Just like today. We have an ability to go to Israel, and at the time it was Kodesh and Achashverosh later on where they can go. They said you can go back and build the temple. 40,000 people went. Out of millions of Jews, 40,000 people went. And if you looked in Egypt had a big Jewish population, Babylonia had a big Jewish population, and there were even Jews that went to Germany. They went to areas like Bavaria, and when Ezra HaSofer sent messages to them, come back, we're building the temple, the Mikdash, the Beit HaMikdash, their response back was, listen, you go build the Beit HaMikdash, we'll build our Mikdash Me'at where we are. And the Chachamim write, the Rishonim bring down, the Rishonim bring down, unfortunately, that during the first Crusades, most of those towns and villages that were established from Bayit Rishon were completely annihilated. It's a sad truth, but we are what's called Eretz Oivehim. We are in the land of our enemies. Of course, we're God bless America and everything of that nature, but we can't be oblivious to the fact that we're guests here. And today, I don't know if any of you guys saw it. I don't really hear the news too much, but I did hear what happened with some of the Poison Ivy League schools when they had some of the presidents come down to Congress, and they asked them a very simple question: is genocide of Jewish people something that should be prevented if people are marching and chanting this? And their response in a short form, you don't need to watch, is no, it's not a problem. It's a problem when someone...
Don't give a straight answer.
They would get, no, but
But the question wasn't even that, right? The question was, is the genocide of Jews a breach of Harvard's, Yale's, insert schools charter?
Of harassment.
Is it because harassment? There's like, it is only harassment if it's taken into action. So,
so in short, what they're trying to say is that only if genocide is going to go into an action, then it's something to prevent. You know why I'm telling you this, guys? Because this is exactly what happened in Germany. It happened in the Poison Ivy League institutions, and it started from the top. You know why? Because if those on the bottom see what they're doing on the top, it becomes, it gets a push to all the populace, to all the population, and suddenly, listen, we're a tiny majority, 1%, 2%, it's a warning sign that this is just the same like we always were. And I tell everyone, Bezat Hashem, we're all going to go to Israel, we're all going to go, but you know what? Be smart about it. Think about where do you want to go, which town, what you're going to do. Start planning. Think about it mentally. Baruch Hashem, my father's Israeli, so I already got a little bit of the Israeli attitude at home. But you know what? I had the fortunate experience, and you know what? Being a lieutenant Batzava didn't help with anything, but Baruch Hashem. Let's continue now with Hadakat Ner Chanukah on Erev Shabbat Motzei Shabbat. So he says here, Erev Shabbat, Nachon Dadik Ner Chanukah Techila V'chakach Ner Shel Shabbat. So what do you do on Friday this week? You're going to light Ner Chanukah and then Nerot Shabbat. Why? Bima Zaman Dachuk, let's say you're running out of time, Yadlik Ner Echad LeMitzvah Ner Chanukah Ube'odo Osek B'adakat Nerot HaHidur Tuchal Isha Levrech Hadik Nerot Shabbat. Let's say the guy's in a rush. I don't know, it's early. Today we're in Miami, so it's around 5 something, but in Brooklyn it's 4:15. Let's say the guy came home 3:45. He showered. He realizes 4 minutes left. He doesn't have time to go put the oil. You can light one candle for Hanukkah. It's okay. One is the mitzvah. There's a few different stages of the mitzvah. One of them is one candle. If you did one candle every single night, you are covered. You are covered. You did Yetzei Chovah, and you're good. What's the other one? The other one is one candle for everyone in your house. That's the second opinion. So if you have 4 people in your house, every night you would light 4 candles. That's the second opinion. What's the third opinion? The third opinion is that you can either go up or down. There was Bet Hillel, Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai is 8, and you go all the way down, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The other one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you go up. So let's say a person's in a rush, you can't do it. You could light one candle. Let's say you're traveling, you're in a hotel, take one tea light. That's your Yotzei Yodei Chovah, and you're good. You don't have to bring the whole menorah and the Chanukiah. It's okay, good to do it, but are you Yotzei to do it? So he says, let's say the guy's in a rush, he doesn't have time, his wife can light the candles, and he can go and light one of them just to get it done quickly in that order. Okay? So what he's also saying is, let's say the guy wants to light all of the Chanukiah, and his wife wants to light the candles of Shabbat, they can do them simultaneously. Okay, so he can start lighting. She doesn't have to wait till all of them. She answers the beracha, and then she can get started, and she can go do it. Just as a side note, when your wife lights the candles, it's not you accepting Shabbat. You accepting Shabbat is separate than your wife, and your wife doesn't even have to accept Shabbat with lighting the candles. Let's say your wife wants to light the candles, and she still wants to shower and get the kids ready and prepare the food. It's okay. It's allowed. She can accept the Shabbat at the right time if she wants to light earlier. So we'll get into that in our Hilchot Shabbat when we go into it.
She can light before and then continue her task.
And let's continue her task, but obviously she should leave the 18 minutes. She should leave the 18 minutes. Never go into the 18 minutes. Always good to do. But sometimes, time and we're rushing.
You're saying that her lighting the candles, it's not when she starts Shabbat?
No, if she can light the candles, not accepting Shabbat. If she wants to, she could also. She could say, listen, I want to light and accept right now. Or if she says, no, listen, I want to, you know why it's good to leave. She should make it tonight. Yeah, at the beginning of the year. No. Okay, so what he's saying, Ed, is that his wife makes a condition. She makes a condition on the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah, that from now, the whole entire year, when I light these Shabbat candles, I am not accepting Shabbat. I accept Shabbat when the time of Shabbat comes. Why is this a good thing to do? A lot of times, you're at home, your wife lit. Oh, she forgot. I forgot something in the car. Okay, you didn't accept Shabbat yet. I want to add water to the urn. No problem. Oh, I forgot to go. No problem. She's got that extra few minutes. But if she accepted Shabbat with the lighting the candles, she's set.
But if she doesn't have to say it physically, she can think it in her.
No, so Rav Musafi likes when you do things verbally. By the way, it's not a big deal. On Rosh Hashanah, I have another condition. What's my other condition? I'll give it to you guys. Rav Musafi says it's very good to do it, and you could do it right now, and you can cover yourself the whole year. What's that I do? I make one condition Rosh Hashanah. Any leftover crumbs and bread that gets disposed of in my house, doesn't matter big or small, is considered halal. Halal.
Consider what?
Halal. What is halal? Halal is when you take a piece of the bread in order to burn or to throw out. Now what do? I say that if there's any leftover pieces we throw in the garbage, this is in my mind, that was the haflashat challah. You can do haflashat challah after the fact. And so when you take this condition on yourself, now the leftover that you threw out is not throwing out bread to the garbage, because throwing bread away is a problem. It's lo alenu. It could bring puranut, aniyut. So there's a few ways to discard bread. How do you discard bread normally? There's a few different ways. I'll give you a couple. Okay. The first way is obviously finish all the bread, if you could.
First way is what?
Finish it, to eat it, to consume it, if you could. Second, what I do is, I do this a lot in Deal, New Jersey, not so much here, is I have a little... I used to feed the animals, just like you said. I used to feed the animals, and I have in my backyard a lot of deers. I have a little thing, I put the bread within an hour, they come, they eat it.
Yeah,
we do that.
Okay.
Every single night or two, deers come from across the street or down.
But also, if it's not ראוי למאכל בהמה או כלב, אז אתה יכול לזרוק את זה.
Okay, so look here. So I'll show you. First, the animals will eat any bread, so it's no problem. That's the next option you could use. Make it into small pieces. You're not supposed to throw out big ones. So you make it small pieces. You break it up. You throw it out. Next one, you can let the bread mold. Take it into a bag. Let it mold. Once it molds, you could throw it out. Next one, you could take it, put it into the oven, and burn it till it crisp, and then throw it out. Or if you have an outside grill, burn it. It's another option to throw out, and obviously you could feed animals, you could feed the fish, and what's the other one?
At a bonfire.
Yeah, and then what?
By one holiday, there was a bonfire. You could also do it at that time.
Okay, and then
Wrap it with 2 bags.
and then there's the other one is you can double wrap it if you want. The double wrapping is a problem. You know why? Because when they throw out the garbage, it all gets ripped apart and the bread comes out. The whole thing is no bizayon on the bread, because bread is sustenance. A person could survive on bread. How do we know a person could survive on bread? How do we even know that that's possible? Bread and water. Yosef HaSadik, when he went to Egypt, he was 17 years old. And he's there for 10 years. He's in jail. He lives in Potiphar's house. Another 2 years in jail afterwards. What did he eat all this time? It says he only ate bread and drank water. He made his own bread. They gave him flour. He had water. He made only bread. And he had pat Yisrael. He didn't eat anything else. No cheese, no anything. And by the way, this was, if you look in, when Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi were in the castle in Paras and in Bavel, they would deal with royalty. What they eat over there, they didn't eat the bread. What they eat instead, they ate seeds. It says they ate nuts and seeds, and that's what they had, the gara'inim, all different types of gara'inim, and that's what they survived on. So it's interesting to know about this. And this is, and so now that you have this condition, you make this condition. Any leftover bread I have, that's considered halal, and it's all gets disposed of properly. So I give you a few different options of how to dispose of bread.
You do it knife for that?
You do tonight right now.
And they just put it on trash.
That's it. That's it. As easy as that.
What did you say?
Say it in English or in Hebrew, whatever you want. Any leftover bread that's going to be thrown away or disposed of is considered halal.
Challah?
That's it.
Shem challah.
Halal. That's it. It's considered halal. It's Rav Musafi's.
What about the woman?
Women can do it also. She can do it also. Just
כל השאריות שנשאר לי של הלחמים או הפיתות.
The pitot. I put anything that goes in the garbage out is halal.
הכל נהפך לחלה.
Nefesh halal. That's it.
הפרשת
The problem with havashat halal is that a lot of times, okay, at home your wife does it. Your wife does it. Sometimes even the wife maybe forget. Let's say she didn't forget and she does it right. A lot of times the bakeries don't do halal like you do halal. You think the bakery, he does it like you, mahmir. A lot of times when we look into these things, we see that they don't. You see, when we brought the guy for the eruvim yesterday, he woke us up to reality that the eruvs are not like we thought they are. They use every kula, and he goes, what's the best example on the eruv? He goes, let's say a person were to come to sell you an etrog that costs $20. You would laugh in his face. He said, I'm going to use a $20 etrog. Give me the $250 nice etrog. He goes, a lot of times with these eruvim that you guys are using, he goes, they use every kula. You would never in your life accept it if you saw the system of how they had to make something kosher. Okay, this rabbi says this is okay. This one says that's okay in this situation. This is the Ashkenaz rabbi. This is that rabbi. They mix everything up as salad, and they say, here, it's kosher. Here, go, let's use it. Now, they do. What do they do this for? They do this for women, kids, people who need it. But when you learn these halachot and you start to see it, you realize, wow, they're giving me the cheapest version of the eruv hatzerot that's kosher, probably shav al ta'aseh adif. And you're hearing it not from me. Now, I'm not an expert in these things. We heard it from the people that are doing the work and that know the halachot. And why do we bring these people down for the interviews? To learn Torah. To learn what's the reality. We're going to have a shochet coming down very soon from one of the slaughterhouses. He's going to talk to us.
He's going to tell you don't eat meat.
Well, he doesn't have to tell me that. I already know that all the 100% of meat that's Beit Yosef is not. I don't need to be a genius. This everyone knows this because we already know that when they do the shechitot, I know this from shochatim. They used to come to my house in Brooklyn a lot of times, and I used to ask them all the questions. Like he told me a lot of wild stuff of how they did the shechitot there. But you see there that it's not 100%. It's not 100% of the meat.
You think they really check with the finger every shechita? I'm not seeing it.
So we asked them a lot of them, and they take kulot. There's a lot of things that they use in kulot. Now this is why a lot of hachamim that I knew in Brooklyn, they didn't eat bread, or they did their own shechitot, or they did on. Now with chickens is a little bit easier. Why? Because on chickens you need only rov of one of the two kanen de veshet. You only rov of one. So it's usually a little bit easier to get that kashrut done better. But when it comes to the other animals, it's another issue. Now, I told this to a lady. You could take it for what it is. This is just based on my own personal understanding. It was a lady who was being very nervous. Someone in my family that I knew, she always was all the time nervous, always nervous. So I asked her a simple question. I said, what do you eat? She goes, I don't eat any red meat. I don't touch red meat. I said, okay, so what do you eat? For protein. She says, I eat chicken every day. For lunch and for dinner, chicken every day. I said, what kind of chicken you buy? She showed me the chicken. It's kasher, glatt kosher, everything good. I told her, this was my advice, this is not Torah advice. I told her, listen, just my own understanding of how farms operate, don't eat chickens anymore. She said to me, why not? I said, because what's happening is these chickens are left in cages and they have to suffer for the most part. Most of the times the chickens are not given the life that they're supposed to have.
But this one happens every Erev Kippur.
Okay. So there's a Saad Ba'de Hayim. Now what happens is when the animal gets through suffering, what happens with the animal when it gets through the suffering is that it goes into the meat. And when a person's consuming the meat, he's consuming those feelings. And the assumption that a person is not is false, because we're going to be doing a class on meat, and I'm going to show you from the Gemara that the Gemara was concerned about this. If they're concerned about the health of an animal, of course they're concerned of how the animal is being kept. Now, it may be according to halakha, the Jewish law, it might be permitted, it's not a problem, you can eat it, it's kosher, quote unquote. I'm talking about the next level health, kashrut. That those chickens that are suffering, if you're consuming them every day, those feelings could come into the person. Suddenly he's always nervous.
The first rabbi that started to do a lot of noise in Israel about that, and he stopped to eat, like, I don't know, almost 30 years ago. He stopped to eat all the basar, only his shchitot. Is
Rabbi Nitzchak, is himself.
He's the one that make a lot of noise, like 30 years.
Yeah, and by the way, just a couple of years ago in Brooklyn, there was a butcher shop. There was one guy in Ateret Torah, I don't know the guy personally, he was learning these halachot, and he's like, you know what, I want to go check the butcher and see, I have to learn. He studied it really in depth, and a lot of these halachot could really use a lot of depth. He did it with the charts and everything. He went to the butcher shop, he found that the butcher shop had on their cuts of meat in the shop, helev. Helev is isur karet. Isur karet. It's a big sin. Carrying on Shabbat is isur skila. Now, when he found this, he asked the butcher, he's like, why do you have this portion of the meat? That's helev. And the butcher told him, how did you get back here? Get out of my store.
Wow.
And he said, listen, I'm not getting out anywhere because you're selling kosher meat to an entire Syrian community. I want to know why this is found here. Listen, push comes to shove, different people got blamed, it got cleaned up, everything got koshered, fine.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. Well, what I'm trying to tell you here is that whenever people are looking into these matters, they're finding that there are issues. And a lot of times, if a cow costs $3,000 raw, just as the cow being killed, that meat can sell for $8,000 once it gets cut up. Not everyone is l'shem shamayim to want to give that up. And so now the assumption that, you know what, let me just pass the buck to somebody else. Let me pass it to somebody else. That it's okay. He handled it. It's okay. It doesn't work that way, because the consumption is the person who's eating it. He's actually being affected.
And also one of the problems here in America that they doesn't have menakrim.
There's a lot of systems in place. That's why a lot of meat now comes from Argentina, comes from other places. But the majority of it, the quality, good stuff, comes from here in America. You know,
Pennsylvania, see how big
Iowa, Florida.
You was there?
Yeah, I was there. I went to Pennsylvania.
One time with my rabbi, he's like huge.
It's unbelievable, and you have to. I'm only giving you guys this insight. Is as we start to learn and we start to go into next level, you have to know that there is something of metaphysical.
The more you do, the more you know. You're not gonna touch no meat, no.
But you prefer to live blindly like a ostrich?
Well, so listen, we're coming here to learn, and we come to wake you up to realities. But now you want to understand.
You want to know the truth, what's going on.
Yeah, but
you want to know the truth about what goes into your strawberries?
Yes.
Trust me, you do not want to know.
That's
Okay.
That's another class.
Okay, but Shai, look here. What I'm trying to tell you with all this is that
The question is
people
how
don't.
much you need to to zoom in and.
Okay, what does the Torah say? What does the Torah state that you're supposed to eat? You have to eat bread and with salt, water, and sleep on the ground. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you that you have to do this. Don't quote me. But if ever somebody asks, I got it. That's what it says. Now, I'm not telling you to go to that extent. But once you start to add above the bread, salt, and the water, it's up to you to figure it out if it's right. It's not up to everybody else. You took upon yourself that, okay, let everyone else handle everything. Bugs, he checked it. Meat, he checked it. The eruv, he checked it. Suddenly you left it all out, and then you know what happens? A guy doesn't feel any kedusha. He does all the religion out of action.
He doesn't know why.
And doesn't feel anything. He doesn't feel holy. He goes to. I don't feel anything. And suddenly he goes to yeshiva for a month or two in Israel. They feed him right. He gets morning to night. They feed him nothing. So they feed him right.
But you feel right.
Yeah, he feels right. Right, good, Shai. And he feels right. And you know, sometimes, Ed, you know this. How many times you go to a rabbi in Israel, you sit with them for 10, 15 minutes, you feel something. You feel it. And you go to the kotel, but you don't tell me you don't feel something?
Sure.
You feel it. Boy, is this tangible? It's not tangible. It's not tangible. But what is that? It's that you're feeling the dose of the kedusha. You feel the kedusha over there. And this happens, you can feel this even here in America. How? Learning Torah. No, you could. You go like this. But you're learning Torah,
But
eating.
I think you really have to distinguish, like, especially in the food industry, You got to distinguish between the choices you could make and the choices that you can't make. Example, let's say whether it's Bet Yosef or not, that's out of your control. But whether I'm now worried about eating hormones and RBST hormones and grains that are filled with chemicals, I could pay a bit more and avoid that.
Okay, so when we get to that, there's a
Same
big difference
with
between kosher and healthy.
Yeah,
That's a separate inyan.
Exactly.
Kosher and has nothing to do with healthy, by the way. A person can eat kosher and be overweight and do everything wrong. Kashrut,
Which is mostly the case.
you know what it is today? Today we love it. Why? Thank God, Baruch Hashem. When I say Baruch Hashem, these places like Kedim and Libers, these guys figured everything out. Anything that's dairy has now become parv. Every single thing that you wanted that's not kosher, suddenly they add another consonant before or after the word, and suddenly it becomes kosher. Huh?
And Pesach.
And on Pesach it's gone.
I was young, when the 80, I remember we used to go to the shop to begging for mastic.
You know what I had as a kid?
For a guy,
On Pesach,
crazy.
we had only
Whatever.
boiled eggs, boiled potatoes. Remember that? Boiled eggs and potatoes. That was the main staple, and maybe some tuna. My Pesach as a kid was 4 or 5 items. Yeah. That was it. And maybe macaroons if I was lucky.
Mine was just chocolate spread, go.
Yeah, chocolate spread. By the way, when we figured out the chocolate spread on Pesach, that was game over. That guy he's a billionaire. I gotta meet, who's the guy? The SCHACH. What's his name? The SCHACH. This guy must be, it's probably Willy Wonka. Who's the guy who owns this thing? I gotta meet him.
I think the latest one is quinoa.
Yeah, the quinoa.
Right before we didn't have quinoa.
There's always some Israeli guy in Israel. He's on the farm somewhere. He's the guy who produces everything. You know what's funny? You meet these guys. When you meet them in Israel, you wonder, like, okay, so and who's the owner? Me. I met a vineyard guy. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm the owner. I own all this. He goes, me. I'm like, who handles the thing? Me. It's unbelievable. It's just funny when you see it in action. Okay, so we went from there. Chanukah. Look where we went. We went on a whole tour. All right.
You have to have the
You're taking the
responsibility
Torah
that
place.
you consume everything.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
To close the loop on one thing that he said.
Yes, it's like
Yeah.
vaccines.
The Rav Zamir Cohen, I'm pretty sure, said on that why women should take off this night is because typically a woman will push off lighting the candles till she's fully ready. That usually gets you 18 minutes.
Very
So
good.
with this time,
Very nice.
I'll light
Lior,
the candles 2
very
hours.
nice. So that's another good reason why instead of letting her finish the light, then accept the Shabbat, and then you're all good. And then obviously you should light even a little bit earlier so that she has a few more minutes.
The last thing that we said, but the flip side is where he goes, when a man, and I'm not 100% sure I'm right, so correct me please, when you as a man go in, so her lighting the candles doesn't necessarily mean you took it in Shabbat. But if you go to shul early, 2 hours early, and you did the Chadali, you took it in for the family.
So the Chadali, according to everybody, once you say the Chadali or Mismor Shili on Shabbat.
For the whole family?
No, for you.
Just for you?
For you. For you. Not for the
But
family.
it's just for you, just until you get to the house. When you get to the house, she has to get a Shabbat.
No, so first Shabbat doesn't wait for anybody. That's Shki'ah. Shki'ah comes, Shabbat's not waiting for anyone. This
No,
is
I'm talking about
so
in Baltimore, for example.
if you light before,
We used to daven by 7:10. The light came there, it was almost like 8 something. So we used to get back home and it's still not.
yes. So, but you accepted Shabbat already. By the way, when I do that, I get home sometimes. My wife didn't even light because I'm an hour and a half. She's okay. I accepted Shabbat. It's no big deal. She can still do melacha for
We
me.
have Shabbat.
Yeah, but
She can still do it for melacha.
I'm on Shabbat, and my daughter and my wife, they're not with Shabbat.
Okay, so you know what? Now that we're talking a little bit on Hanukkah, I'm going to bring you. We started it on the beginning on for Friday. Let's just go.
Start from the beginning.
Okay, no. When it comes on Mosei Shabbat, you notice in the shul and at home it's a little different. In shul, we're going to light the Hanukkah first over here, and then we're going to light the Havdalah after. So at home, you're supposed to do Havdalah first, and then you do. Why in shul it's different? A few reasons. One, because you're going to do Havdalah inside of the Amidah. In Arvit. So that's number one, you did the Havdalah. You can also say Baruch HaMavdil. But why else do you do it in Shul, the Hanukkah first? Because we want to do it with everyone in Shul. Besum Nes, Berov Am Hadrat Melech. Berov Am Hadrat Melech means whenever you're doing mitzvot, if you could do it in a small shul or in a big shul, do it in a big place. It always feel you feel that little magical feeling when 400 people answer Amen and they say the Beracha, you feel it. So say Berov Am. If you're going to do it after Havdalah and shul, you know what's going to happen. Everyone's going to leave. So what did the rabbis come up with? The good tactic. Hold everybody hostage. Okay, that's all. But before you say Havdalah, we hold everybody hostage. We leave them in shul, and everyone stays. And suddenly the men, the women, and it comes out beautiful. You do a beautiful Hanukkah, and you light it. And usually, who's the guy who should light it? Find a guest, find somebody who's here, especially here in Miami, it's easy. There's a guest here every single day. We have the guest, and especially on Hanukkah. Let him do the berachot, let him light it, it's always better. And then we'll light the Havdalah after the fact. But at home, you do Havdalah first, and then you do it. Why? There's a few other reasons. One of the good reasons is Tadir v'she'enu Tadir, Tadir kodem. What's that? That Tadir is something that is it's recurring, but also Tadir is valuable. Valuable and not so valuable, you take valuable first. What do you mean valuable, not so valuable? They're both valuable. Hanukkah and the Havdalah, but Havdalah you do every week. So it's a lot more valuable that you do it every week. So do that one first, and then do it. And also, in case someone didn't do Havdalah inside of the Amidah, by doing Havdalah at home, he's covered, he'll be okay, and he'll do it. Let's do it.
If he's not driving.
Okay, well, we're talking about the case he does. Let's do one more halakha. Isha shekadma b'hidlikat nerot Shabbat lifnei nerot Hanukkah. Let's say a lady, she didn't know, she forgot. She lit the hadlakat nerot Shabbat before. She, oh my God, it's Hanukkah tonight. Honey, it's Hanukkah. What do I do? יכולה להדליק אחר כך נרות חנוכה. She could light the נרות חנוכה even afterwards, even without the condition. למנהגנו שאין קבלת שבת תלויה בהדלקת נרות שבת. Because our minhag Chamavajah is that lighting the candles on Friday is not accepting the Shabbat. Very important. וכל שכן שרשאי האיש בעל הבית להדליק נרות חנוכה אחר שהדליקה אשתו נרות שבת. The right thing to do is let your wife light the candle Shabbat. You let her man that station, you man the other station, and then you have your other son man the espresso station. No, I'm just joking on that one. Even if she took upon herself to light, that the candles lighting is her acceptance of Shabbat. The remaining people in the house don't accept the Shabbat, even if she did with the nerot candle, with the candles. So she's saying that here. Let's say a man lighted the nerot Shabbat for whatever reason, he's alone at home. That's a separate halakha, which everyone needs to know. Is that if a man's at home alone, or he's living alone, or he's separated, or divorced, or his wife is in a different city, he's gonna light nerot Shabbat every week. Even amongst the Ashkenazim, lighting the candles of Shabbat does not accept the Shabbat right away. And you could light it right after. So you guys understood? If by mistake your wife lit, it's okay. She could still light it. Best thing to do is let her do the Nerot Chanukah and you do the Hanukkah. What should you be doing tonight, right now? When you go home, is set up your Hanukkah from right now. The nightfall is the beginning of the day. Okay, she did it. So if what you could do is, I gave you guys from the SCHACH, you could take it, cut a little piece, put it inside the ptil, so you have it there, and you took from one mitzvah. Yeah, as the ptil. What was I do is, I'm not sure if these are going to burn well. So the wicks. The wicks. So what I do is I use the cotton wicks soaked in oil, or the ones that you buy. I take them, I leave them in a little thing of oil so that they're always soaked. I stick them into the little floaters, and then I take one of these little schach pieces that we're going to cut right here, and I stick it inside. So I'm lighting with a piece of the schach that's deoraita. There's a mitzvah deoraita, and I lit the next mitzvah de rabbanan. You know, you carry from one to the other. You know what it shows God? You appreciate my mitzvot. You know, some people, they have safes in it with gold in it and silver and precious metals. My safe has in it leftover mitzvot, because this is the only thing that we take with us.
You say you light with this. Is that what you're saying?
So what I do is I take a floater. I take a floater and I put it inside the wick and the oil. Then I take this and I cut it with a little scissor and I stick it in with the wick.
Extension of the wick.
And it comes an extension of the wick. And then this is the SEGULA from Rav Salman Musafi.
Oil that left over.
Okay, so what I do with all of it is I leave them for the next night, the oil, and I continue using them. So I don't put any water inside the Hanukkah like Rav Musafi. No water inside it. In Shabbat, if you want to put water, it's brought down. With the Hanukkah, Rav Musafi says not to, so we don't. And you just put oil. I carry it now. If there's leftover oil at the end, I take all of it and I light Leilu Nishmat, one of the rabbis or one of the Gedolim, and we do that. I do that. So you always carrying the mitzvot, something else.
Your full oil is on the average size. Thank you. How long? Is that like all night long?
No. So what I do is I tested them in the past. Usually, if you fill up the cups, it should be 30 minutes, a little over 30 minutes. Always to keep 30 minutes, and by doing that, you'll always be covered. I try to do 40 minutes, do a little bit more. And one of the customs Rav Musafi also brings down is you should use olive oil for the actual menorah, but on the shamash, use canola oil. Use something a little cheaper. You don't have to use the main one. Reason why, there's a lot of reasons why we have a shamash. One of them is that you have an extra light for illuminary purposes. So in case somebody did use the light, he didn't use from the 8, he used it from the shamash. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.